What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. Today, we explore Alex Rodriguez and former CEO of Walmart, Marc Lore, purchasing the Minnesota Timberwolves. We're going to tell you what this means for the franchise and how they'll be able to turn it around. All that and much more coming your way right now! All right, Nick. Well, we learned early on Monday that Alex Rodriguez and former e-commerce CEO of Walmart, Marc Lore, actually purchased the Minnesota Timberwolves from their current owner, Glenn Taylor, who purchased the team back in 1994 for a reported $1.5 billion. Tell us what this means for the Minnesota Timberwolves and kind of how this all came about.
Yeah, so Alex Rodriguez, a guy who's been seeking out a professional team for quite some time, thought he had the Mets a couple months ago. That didn't work out. So now he teams up with Marc Lore, the former CEO of Walmart e-commerce, and they become the new owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves, like you said, spending $1.5 billion for the team, when Glenn Taylor spent $90 million to buy the team in 1994. What a great investment for Glenn Taylor. It's truly paid off. But now for Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore, they will now acquire the team in 2023. It's going to take about 2 years for them to go through the transition of becoming the owners. They officially won't become the owners until the league approves it, until the rest of the owners approve the deal. So until then, they are still on the outside looking in, but soon enough, they will be the owners, and they can start to figure out how they want to turn this franchise around. The worst team in the NBA as it stands right now, the worst team over the last few years. They're going to have some work ahead of them to right this ship. It's going to be a big project for them to take on.
For sure. And, I like you said, Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore had teamed up beforehand trying to purchase the New York Mets, obviously outbid by Steve Cohen, who ended up buying the Mets. And now here we are with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Alex Rodriguez was clearly looking to get into owning a sports franchise, and deservedly so. I mean, look at what Glenn Taylor did. Again, 1994 buys the team for $90 million, sells it in 2021 for $1.5 billion. That's quite the investment, if you ask me. So let's just take a look at where the Timberwolves are as a franchise right now. They're at the bottom of the league. They have one future asset that people can't decide whether he's a bust or if he's the second coming. And as of this point, they have players that may or may not want to be on the team. I feel like I said that pretty accurately, no? Now we have a transition in ownership that's going to take about 2 years. Yeah, this franchise is in a rough spot. It's going to be for the next few years on top of the ownership transition. So, we're taking a look at Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore taking over in 2023. Karl Anthony Towns is a free agent in 2024. D'Angelo Russell is still on the team. It's going to be tough. We'll see where the Timberwolves really are, but they have to come up with a plan for how they're going to be able to compete. And I just don't know what that looks like. Maybe you have a better idea.
Yeah, so my plan, if this were me, if I were Alex Rodriguez, if I were Marc Lore, how I would attack this is I would scrap the entire roster. As soon as I grab hold of this roster, I am wiping it clean, and I'm doing exactly what Oklahoma City Thunder did a few months ago. I am selling off my biggest pieces for as much draft capital as I possibly can get. I want to have as many picks over the next 10 years to say, I'm going to use that time to grab all the best talent that comes out of college and put them on my roster and build through the draft. That's exactly how you need to do it in the NBA when you don't have a way of attracting the biggest free agents in the league. So now you need to look at Karl Anthony Towns, who will be on the roster. He'll have one more year on his deal when they take control of this team. Sell him off. You'll have Anthony Edwards still under contract on his rookie deal. Sell him off. Unfortunately, D'Angelo Russell, unless he signs an extension, he will have become an unrestricted free agent in 2023, so they will not be able to move him. But it looks like they will be acquiring a top 3 pick for the next 2 years, so they will have top guys to either build off of or to sell off for more draft picks. That is up to them, and that is yet to be determined who they have in-house. So using those pieces, grab as much draft capital as possible, start over with the franchise, go get the coach you want, go get the general manager you want, go redo this entire front office, and get the guys who you think will create a winning culture.
Yeah, I would also add on to that by saying I think that they need to be in the trade market in order to take on undesirable salaries. Look at Al Horford, look at some of the guys that were shipped off to teams that took on bigger contracts that don't need those players, right? Take a look at what they did. They acquired more draft picks simply by acquiring players that they just had to pay to not play. I mean, it's that simple. So you're helping your draft stock in your own right, but also you're acquiring more draft stock because you took on a player that a team didn't want and said, "We need the cap space. You have cap space. Why don't you take our player and we'll give you draft picks on top of it just to allow us to have some freedom and move about the trade market or free agency, whatever the case is." So I like the moves here. I think Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore have a ton of work to do. And listen, if I know, it pains me to say it as a Red Sox fan, but Alex Rodriguez is a very hard worker. He's extremely dedicated to his craft. He's extremely dedicated to what he does. And he's made a ton of money in his career. He knows what makes money and what sells. He knows how to market sports. He's worked at ESPN for a long time. He's learned from some of the best. I believe he's going to utilize his contacts, his knowledge, and his experiences to really set this franchise up for success. We're looking at about a 10-year turnaround for the Minnesota Timberwolves at this point.
Yeah, and one thing that Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore can do right now is sit in with Glenn Taylor while he is there for the future drafts, for the future free agency markets, and talk with him about who the team should get, because they won't have control. They can't make those decisions by themselves. They can work through him to acquire the guys they want and get a leg up on restructuring this team in the fashion they want.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of players will want to play for a former player, even if it wasn't in their sport. There's some sort of camaraderie when you have another athlete at the helm who's calling the shots. They know what it looks like from your end. They understand what it looks like inside the clubhouse and how players will be feeling at certain junctures in time. Alex Rodriguez is going to be a hot commodity for free agents to say, maybe I do consider the Minnesota Timberwolves in future years. Maybe I take a look at this franchise and say, you know what? It might be worth actually signing a deal and seeing how this franchise starts to build itself. But I think we're getting a little far ahead of ourselves at this point. I want to just really hone in on the fact that I want to say congratulations to Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore first and foremost for everything they were able to accomplish in acquiring this. Hopefully, the NBA owners approve this with flying colors. They deserve it. There's no reason that Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore shouldn't be approved. And at this point, it's just a wait and see game. I'm excited to see what the Timberwolves can be under both Alex Rodriguez and Marc Lore. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.